Hi guys and welcome back to Switch Up. Now to my right, Glenn is reviewing our first Nintendo release, which is awesome. Thanks so much to Jace Glover for this review. I'm going to do my best to make into a decent video. Imagine spending 4 years on one project. Today I've never spent 4 years working at the same place, let alone on one job. But that's exactly what Sam Eng at Snow Hydra Games has done with Zarvot, a game about cubes. Originally developed as a simple 2D arcade shooter, Sam has since evolved the game via the Unity engine into a full-fledged 3D experience, adding multiple modes along the way, including a complete single-player story. But do these cute and emotional boxes feel more like a present on Christmas morning or a wet empty cardboard box in a back alley? Let's find out. The story of Zarvot follows two cubes, Charcoal and Mustard, who are trying to gather a number of items to give as the ultimate birthday present to their friend Red, who has been a bit down in the dumps recently. I don't want to ruin any part of the tale, so I'll just say that overall it's a quirky and humorous one, oftentimes breaking the fourth wall at its own expense. The only complaint I have is that the game sets itself up to be a discussion on depression, with Red shutting himself off from the world and unable to express his feelings. It had me expecting more depth and introspection such as you see in Celeste, but in the end is a little shallow and was not meant to tackle these complex emotions. As long as you don't go in expecting more than a fun and silly experience, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Story scores 15 out of 20. Zarvot is first and foremost an arcade shooter, and each of the game's modes features slight variations centering on the game's combat structure. Whether in single player or multi, you will be jumping, dashing and firing lasers to survive. Let's talk about controls first. The left joystick moves your cube around the isometric maps, with B allowing you to jump and double jump, and A prompting a dash that provides temporary immunity during movement. Tapping the Y button fires bullets, and holding it down will charge up a more powerful penetrating beam. The X gives you a melee type ability where blades spin around the character for a short time, and holding this button charges up a radial attack that expands outwards the longer you hold it. The final ability is a powerful chomp attack, which requires pressing all 4 buttons at once. Each of the A, B, X and Y abilities also have a secondary mapping to one of the triggers or bumpers, which is a nice feature if you find it more comfortable using those or mixing and matching. While there is unfortunately no option to map the controls as you see fit, overall they are intuitive and take little time getting used to, as my wife will gladly attest. That's Jace's wife, not mine. She picked up the game fresh and beat me on only our second multiplayer romp. At this point, I'd already completed the entire story, so either the game is easy to pick up, as I said, or I'm just really bad. I'll let you be the judge. Solo players can enjoy the story or arcade modes, while groups of up to 4 friends can battle it out in 5 variations of versus match. The story is broken into 11 chapters and sees you moving through linear maps, battling waves of enemies on your path to restoring Red's happiness. I have a couple of small gripes with story mode, but before I go into them, I just want to remind everyone that the game was designed almost entirely by one person, and what was achieved here is tremendous. Anyway, there are some areas that are overly difficult without a need for them to be. An example are thin platforms in the Deep Freezer map that are difficult to traverse and saw me plummeting to my death multiple times and destroying my score for the chapter unnecessarily. Another issue is that enemies drop coins that you can collect, but throughout my time with the game I've not found any real purpose for them. The arcade mode has 11 maps that must be unlocked by finding them in their corresponding story chapters. Selecting one of these levels pits you against 5 waves of enemies that you must defeat using the fewest amount of lives in shortest time. The game mode is a fun challenge, but again, there are a couple of small issues. More than once I encountered a bug that made an enemy invisible and I couldn't attack it, but could still be hit. The only way to reset this was to die and start all over again. As for multiplayer options, you have Elimination, Deathmatch, Vox Control, Sumo, and the Nintendo Switch exclusive called Joyvot. Elimination is played in rounds where the last cube standing earns a point, with 3 points needed to win. Deathmatch tasks players with being the first to reach 10 kills. Vox Control is a unique variation where plates of sushi drop onto the map and the first player to control 30 plates of sushi wins. Weird. Of course, dying means all your sushi is up for grabs by the other players. I can't speak for the sumo mode as I've not yet unlocked it. Last but not least is Zarvot, which has a single player use a Joy-Con to control a giant banana and sling enemies at the other players, whose goal it is to destroy the banana. Each of the options has its merits and is fun with only 2 players, but I'd guess would be an absolute blast with a full group. With 15 maps, each boasting unique layouts and obstacles, there's a lot to do and see here, and again it blows my mind that it was put together by one guy. The only thing I'd like to see added to the multiplayer are power-ups to vary the gameplay a bit, and the ability to play with friends online. While the gameplay isn't perfect, it is a ton of fun and only gets better with some friends as you blast each other to bits. Gameplay scores 17 out of 20. The visuals in Zarvot have highs and lows. Let's get the bad news out of the way first. The combat can get pretty intense at times, with projectiles flying everywhere and parts of the level exploding. On some maps, things can tend to blend together and make it difficult to follow the action. This is made worse if you take damage, as the lower you get in health, the more blurred the edges of the screen become. I think some of this could have been mitigated by having variations of the enemies specific to each level. Additionally, while the game runs at a smooth 60 frames per second most of the time, I did notice the occasional frame drops. On the positive side, the level design is fantastic, and each area feels and looks distinctly its own. From a mossy forest to a steely refrigerator, everything felt right, and it's obvious how much care and attention was taken to capture every detail. Colours are vibrant and really pop off the screen, and weather effects are another nice touch. While a bit of a mixed bag, visuals and performance have more highs than lows and score 14 out of 20. In terms of audio, I have to search deep for something to complain about as I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. The only thing I can think of is it could have used a few more songs to add variety, but that's about it. The soundtrack is wonderful, full of mellow jazz tunes during calmer stages and more upbeat rock tracks from the more intense levels. From the lasers to cube explosions, the sound effects fit perfectly. Even considered in relation to the effects is the location of the level. For instance, there's a noticeable echoey, tinny sound to everything when you enter the deep freezer level, that's in stark contrast to the standard sounds while in an open environment. Additionally, while none of the story is voice acted, each character has its own distinct sounds when it speaks, adding to the charm. Much to my joy, HD Rumble is also used well and adds to the immersion as you feel every hit you take. Audio receives 18 out of 20. Zarvot will cost you $19.99, but Jace didn't mention that it also costs £19.99, which is a little bit ridiculous. You're looking at a 25% price difference between the countries. Now, for the price, you do get a fun and unique arcade shooter offering 2 single player and 5 multiplayer modes. The story mode will last around 4 to 5 hours, but has some replayability in the form of finding the related arcade map and boosting your score. The versus options, on the other hand, can be enjoyed over and over again and provide a fun and easy to pick up addition to any game night. While I feel $5 cheaper would have been the better price point given the competition on the eShop, I have no problem recommending this title at the full amount. Now obviously, Jace didn't know that the UK version is again another 25% more expensive. He scores value 16 out of 20, but I'm sorry Jace, I'm going to knock a couple of points off. I'm going to give it 14 out of 20 because actually, that's not okay. In the last couple of years, I've been continuously surprised by what small teams, or in this case one person, can achieve, and this game is no exception. While not perfect, Zarvot is a delight, and more importantly, it's a fun experience worth checking out on Nintendo Switch. Zarvot, a game about cubes, receives an overall switch-up score of 78%. Thanks again to Jace, he just writes amazing reviews and it takes him a lot of time to do it, so please leave him some love down in the comments. As always guys, for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. See ya!
Why